The following program contains adult language, poor taste in jokes, racial slurs, political slurs, slants, and all sorts of things that, if you are sensitive and have a delicate constitution, you should probably go watch Teletubbies. You were warned.
I ain't drunk, I'm just drinking.
But you're so high.
Oh man, you know I ain't high.
But you're so high.
Yeah, well I just take a little sip every now and then.
But you're so high.
You ought to be ashamed of
Stay
yourself.
drunk all
Oh,
the
come on now,
time.
you all don't feel like that.
Bam! Hey kids, welcome to the Proton build. I haven't done a build video in a while, and I'm going to do two. I have 3 build videos coming up probably this week. One's going to be a GPS drone, one's going to be a Mocha JJ, actually that's going to be next week. Mocha JJ, and now this Proton build. And the reason I'm doing the Mocha JJ build and the Proton build for beginners, okay? And I'm going to structure it for beginners. So there you go. There's a warning right there. So if you've built 5 birds, ignore this fucking video. So what I want to stress is when you do a build, most of this stuff follows the same routine. Okay, you don't necessarily have to use everything I'm using here. You don't have to use a Proton Frame. You don't have to use T-Motor F60 Pro 2s. You don't have to use all, you know, my build's a little bit, it's not super expensive, but it's not cheap either. You can use Racer Star motors, or you can use whatever, you know, you use whatever you want. Most of the stuff's going to apply to whatever you want to do. So for our particular build, we're going to use the Proton Frame, and I'm going to put links in the description to all this stuff. The Proton Frame from FlightClub, but this is a custom nylon print that I ordered separately, okay? It comes with, I don't think I have it out here, this big domey ugly fucker. I don't have it out here, sorry guys. Or it comes with a carbon top, which is really cool too. So if you want to use the carbon top, bam, that's great too. And I'll put a link in the description where I got mine. And I like the nylon because you can dye it. And I did a dye job on this one, okay, myself. And you use clothing dye from a craft store, and bam, you know, that's really all there is to it. So we're gonna pop the top here. And I am going to, what I'm going to do with this build video, I think it's boring watching somebody solder shit over and over and over again and all this stuff. So I'll do like one of each thing. That way you can see what's going on. So how I start with the build, let's go over what we're going to use first in this particular build. Okay. I'm not going to show how to build the Proton Frame because if you can't figure that out, you probably shouldn't be building a bird. No offense. It's got a CNC aluminum top plate. The arms, this is not the stretched X version, this is the standard X, and it comes with ISO mounts or grommets for your flight controller, which is cool. And we're going to build it just like this. I am using, in this build, the Fortini F4 OSD flight controller. I love this FC. This is just, it's pretty much one of my tops right now. I got another one coming in tomorrow that might replace it, but this one actually already comes with anti-vibration doohickeys in it. So ISO mounts, as we call them. So, bam, we'll be going over that. And I like this because it actually comes with a wiring diagram. Whew, who would have thought? Okay. I was going to use an all-in-one solution for this. Like, here's an example. Here's an Alpha 35 amp BL Heli S Omnibus F4 flight controller. But I wanted to kind of give the full effect of doing a real build without a full solution. Here is the ESC we're going to use. I have never used this one, so this might be a little bit new for me. Geez, I got this thing packaged well. Here we go. And I love this thing so far. We'll see how it works. This is the Kamikaze, what is this thing? Shit. BL Heli 32-bit, 40 amp. So this thing's got some kick to it. And it comes with a ribbon cable, which is up here. Bam, like that. Very, very nicely made. I love how big their pads are. That's just gorgeous. I love it. Okay, so that's what we're going to use for our powerhouse. We are using the F60 Pro 2s, which are the motors, obviously. And these are by T-Motor. Very, very nuts motors, okay? Gonna be sharp. Very, very, very cool. Curved magnets, very nice tight tolerances. T-motor, you can't go wrong with a T-motor. It's just, forget about it. I'm going to use a VTX02. The difference between the VTX02 and the VTX03 is the VTX02 is stuck at 200 milliwatts, whereas the VTX03 can switch between 25, 100, and 200 or something like that. I'm just going with the stuck version, and you're going to need some standoffs, obviously. So here's what we're going to do first. How I do my builds, okay? Here's your guts and bobs and bibs and whatever. Make sure you got a drink. Roto twister. You got to have a roto twister. How I usually start every build I do is motors in. That's just how I do things. So let's make sure our screws are going to stick perfectly. Yes, they are. Okay. So take some blue Loctite, if you've got some, and an Allen. Woohoo! This is not rocket science, kids. Now, what I usually do with these is I'll take a magnet. Hang on a tick. Clear the shit out of here. Good enough. I'll take a magnet pan. This is how I do it. You don't have to do it this way. And I take my blue Loctite and I put a drop on each end. And that's it. Take it, put it on the end. Oh, wrong one. Been a long day, kids. All right, and then wire side going in. Now, the trick is when you use Loctite, you do not have to torque the shit out of everything. Just get it snug, and that's all you need. Now, if you're not using Loctite, then you might want to torque the shit out of stuff. With motors, what I do, I leave them all reasonably loose until I get all the screws in. In this case, it's only going to be 3 because it's a 3-point mount, right? And snug them up in a star fashion, like you're changing a tire. 1, 2, 3. And that's it. Bam. You don't have to over torque them because you've already got, listen to that, because you've already got Loctite on there. Easy money. So I'm going to do the other 3. I'll be right back. All right, we're back. So pop the motors on. That was quick. No big deal. Done. So now the next thing you want to think about is your wiring. And I had lunch with one of my buddies today from the, or not today, this week. It was yesterday actually. With one of my buddies from the club, and he's really new into the building, and he says it's very overwhelming, all the choices that you have, and all the things that you can do and use to build. You know, where do you begin? Where do you start? And that's where the forums are, or Patriot Blade type of guys, or people like me on YouTube. You know, I've built, what you guys see me do on YouTube is about 1/8 of what I actually do in the real world as far as quads go. So, you know, don't be afraid or ashamed to ask. You know, it's like, hey, I want a bird that goes really, really fast in long runs, or I want a bird that's really, really torquey. You know, what's the best thing to use? Ask. This community is great. All the people out there, the drone meshes, the JJ Roto geeks, the, you know, UAV futures, all these people that know stuff, ask them. You know, there's billions of people out there, you know, ask. So now the next thing you want to decide to do is how do you want to run? My buddy asked me, he goes, you know, one of the things that's confusing is how do you know where to run your wires and whatnot? And that's why I start from the motors in. You'll see in a minute. So what do you do next? You can do a couple of things. We can do a twist, okay? You've seen me do these on a lot of gallery builds where I'll actually do a twist of the wires, and then I'll put heat shrink over them and then heat shrink it, and it'll stay twisted. You can do it that way. Or I do braids. I've been doing braids a long time. Seems like a lot of people are doing them now. Or you could go flat line if you like that look, okay? I think with this one, we're just gonna do a simple braid. And if you don't know how to braid, then don't do one. And or ask your old lady to sit on the couch and do it for you. And, you know, bam, there you go. But yeah, and basically what I will do is I will braid these things up to the point of the arm, okay? You'll see what I mean here in a second. Very simple. I'm not zooming in because this isn't fucking home ec class. You don't need to learn how to braid from JJ Rotogeek. All right, I'll probably do it to there, and then I'm gonna strap them down, and then I'll do all 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the other 3. I think we're just going to keep that look. It looks pretty good. And then I'm going to show you how I strap these down. I do not use zip strips. I hate using tie wraps or zip strips on quads. Just fucking hate it. So bam, I'll be right back. All right, and we're back. So what I did, you usually want to braid, if you're going to braid, or even twist, whatever you're doing, a little bit, like even past where you think you're going to be, okay? Then what I do is I take my magic tape, my extreme silicone self-adhesion magic tape. And there is a link in the description to this. I take about 1.5 inches, cut it down the middle like that. Zoom in a little bit, okay? Then I peel the plastic off. Then I slice it into 4 equal segments. Those are horrible. We're going to do that again. Woohoo! That's why you shouldn't do builds at 10 o'clock at night, I guess. Okay? Let's try that again. See, and like a professional person would edit that out. I don't do that. Okay? 1, 2, 3. Okay? So now, the trick to this stuff is there's no sticky to it. It is silicone, and it just sticks to itself. But the trick is you have to stretch it to get it to stick. So what I'll do, and this is important, the sequence of events here, I like to strap my wires down first. That way my lengths are all accurate, okay? Don't be afraid to pull the shit out of this stuff. And then give it a good squish. Bam. Perfect, okay? And that's going to hold you down, and it's going to keep you looking really neat. I'm going to do the other 3. I'll be right back. Bam, and we're back. So there we go. We are all strapped down. Looks good. Now you can center these things. The nice thing about using this stuff versus using zip strips is zip strips look like shit, for one. They weigh more, number 2. These, you can actually pull them back off. It's almost like using a rubber band, but you can actually unwind it, take it off, and put it back if you ever need to, which is nice. It's light. It holds up really, really well. And if you do need to stretch or your wires need to flex a little bit, it lets them. Whereas a zip strip is very, 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 very tight. So, like, look at this. Here's that fuck up I did. If you pull on this, look at that. Bam. Okay? And you just want to wrap it, pull it tight, and it sticks to itself. So if you do need to have some flex in there or need to pull a little bit of extra to solder, bam, you're good. So that's why I use it. So there we go. That's done. Get rid of that now. Now what we're going to do is we're going to tin up. All right? So we're going to take, this is not a soldering video. I've done those. Look through the list. They're in there somewhere. But you will be able to see a little bit here. Now, how I solder, I get in and get out very, very fast. Kind of like my buddy in England, Demi, and his old lady. Just in and out, bam! Put that in there for you, brother. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our ESC and we're going to tin all the pads. Pretty simple stuff, okay? Not a big deal. If you lift off a pad, you're really doing something wrong. I use this tube solder. I'll put a link in the description of this too. I know it, you know, people say, oh, it's kind of a pain in the ass to have tube solder. I like it. If you don't like it, don't use it. All right, so again, in and out fast. The trick with soldering, or I'm sorry, the trick with tinning is you do not need to get absolute adhesion when you're tinning. Does that make sense? Oops, there's a bridge. Because this is not the point of soldering. You're not soldering yet. You're only tinning. When you actually apply the wires, that's when you want to worry about getting a good solid adhesion. You don't want to overheat your board, okay? You can always add solder later if you need it. Does that make sense? So we're just going to zip through here really quick. And you don't even have to get full coverage because you're probably thinking, oh man, he's not getting a lot on there, because you got to remember you're going to have solder from your wire popping on there too. Oops, fail. See, we all fuck up. All right, bam, that's done. So now what we're going to do, pretty quick, right? Now what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of our wires. Now, like I said before, guys, you do not have to do this build with the components I'm doing. If you don't like this frame, fuck it. Build a frame you like. Don't build my crap. All the same stuff applies. So, what we're going to do, that's going to go like that. And our FC is going to go like that. So, we need some standoffs. Hopefully I've got some long bolts and screws in here. So, what we're going to do, I'll have to dig through my supply and get some longer bolts, I think. But that's okay. Let's see what we got. Oh yeah, we need a lot longer than that. So, I'm going to go dig up some screws, and basically all we're going to do is we're going to send some screws up through there, and then we're going to put our standoffs, these little guys, M3 nylon standoffs in there, and bam, we'll be right back. All right, and we're back. So, what we did, now, the Proton Frame has those ISO mounts that come with it, those rubber grommets. That's fine, leave them in there. It's not a big deal. Then what we're going to do is we're going to tighten these down a little bit. That's funky about this ESC. See how all these things are crinking out? That's not great. All right. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to skip these. Let's see if this works. At this point, I think this is a really sharp ESC. It's nice. I like the large pads. I like the way it looks like it's made very well. I do not like that they have the chips so close. So we're going to use, how we want to do this. Might be able to go straight up. No, we're going to have to use standoffs. That kind of sucks. All right, so we're going to do that. It's not the end of the world. Okay. Grab some more. Ah, the boring part. He didn't edit out. Damn it, dude. Come on. I know. It's awful. All right. Easy enough. And then next thing you want to do, determine the direction of your flight controller. All right. Which is this way, I believe. No, I'm sorry. It's this way. No, it's this way. And then make sure it's going to fit before you tighten everything down. Trust me on that, okay? Yeah, that's going to look nice. I think we got a winner there. So I'm going to go ahead and bolt this down. Now, the other thing you want to look at is I can actually fit my receiver in between there, which is probably how we're going to do this. And always, when you're doing a canopy job, make sure you're still clearing, which we got tons of room in here. So I'm going to go ahead and nut this down. It's not real hard, kids. Take M3 nuts, slide them on there. So I'll be right back. All right, and we're back. So you guys saw when I screwed these down, when I threaded these standoffs down, they went crooked, right? So here's what you do. Leave them loose. See how there's a gap there? Then put your flight controller on, put your nuts on, and then take a Phillips screwdriver and then draw them down from the bottom. Makes sense, right? They're still going to go a little crooked like that, but it doesn't matter because the flight controller is going to hold it in. Now, I don't want them really tight. They don't have to be torqued down. They are just nylon, guys. And one of the guys in the club asked me today, he goes, how tight should you make ISO mounts? You know, when you have the washers in between the, you know, when you're vibration protection. Realistically, about halfway. You don't want it squished, but you don't want it totally loose. The trick to that is, if you have it totally tight, it completely defeats the purpose. So what I do is I keep these nuts reasonably light, hand tight. Then I take a soldering iron, and I do this number. And believe it or not, you can still unthread them. But that acts as like a plastic thread lock. All right, very, very easy. Yeah, pretty straightforward. So then what we're going to do, we got that set. That looks good. Our ESC wires are going to come out of there. We're going to go over to the top here. I think next what we're going to do is we are going to wire up our motors. So usually what I'll do when I do a braid or even a twist or whatever else, I usually like to twist these wires as well. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll twist them to this point, measure out, and I cut at the longest point, give yourself a little bit of room. Bam, just like that. Does that make sense? All right, so then what you can do, if you want to measure each one, keep one of them very long. All right, keep them twisted when you do this. One of them's got to be long. If you want to measure, basically you measure to the beginning of the next one. So motor wire number 2 right there is going to go to there, and motor number there is going to go to there. Okay. I do not use wire strippers at all. I never do. It takes too long, and I'm pretty accurate with my thumbnails. I'm not using my thumbnails because I fucked it up. So twist your wires a little bit on the end. That gets the air out. It's important. Okay. Give yourself a good connection. Now, hopefully you can see this a little bit. Now I'm going to tin these wires just like this. Bam. Nothing but a peanut. Okay? Again, just like the flight controller, it doesn't have to be solid. Okay? Then we're going to try and do this on camera. We're going to go ahead and use the tweezers. We're going to do it the right way. Woohoo! Okay? So hopefully you can see this. Sometimes it helps to take it, bend it in your favor, and solder it in. It's not too hard to do. Okay? And it's not super important that you have them twisted or not twisted. It's not working. It's all on how you want to look. Not hard. And a lot of times I'll have a little bit of a sloping angle. The other thing that I always stress, hopefully I'm getting this on camera, yeah, is when you're doing any type of pad work with light gauge wire, heat through the top of the wire first until your base metal melts, and then you're done. That's it, okay? Perfect, okay? I might redo that one, looks like shit. But anyway, so I'm gonna do the other 3. Bam, be right back, kid. All right, here we go. So we set up the other 3. Looks good, all right? The next thing we're gonna do is we wanted to determine what pads we're going to use on the FC, all right? And just so happens, they gave us this nice, neat little wiring diagram. Bam, look at that, okay? I love the Fertini, it's very, very nice. So what you want to do is you want to tin up the ones that you're going to use. So I know I'm going to use my ground, my video cam, and my camera in. That's voltage for camera. We're going to use ground VCC video out. Actually, I'm not going to use VCC because that's battery voltage. You don't want to do that because I have a 5 volt VTX, so I do not want to put it on VCC or that will blow it up. VCC means full voltage, okay? But we do have a 5 volt here, a ground here, transmit 1, receive 1, blah, 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 okay? So what we're gonna do, there's your battery in, battery out, transmit 4, ground, there's your S bus, UART 3, which is kind of unusual actually for a F4. Again, another battery voltage buzzer if you can use it, and there's your boot button. Bam, 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 bam. So, just to show you guys real fast, I'm going to tin the top 3 and the bottom 3, and then I'll do the rest of them off camera just because who the hell wants to sit here and watch that crap, right? All right, so here we go. Grab some solder. All right. Heat the pad a little bit. Not but a peanut. If needed, notice how it looks like a BB? That's okay. As long as it sticks to the pad, that's okay. That's a cold solder joint, all right? But, like I said before, we don't need a hot solder joint right now, right? You only need a hot solder joint when you got wire going onto it. Oop, fail. That one's got some slime on it. We're gonna get that BB off there. See if you can see that. That one balled up. Easy enough. Okay. There we go. Sometimes it helps to rotate your soldering iron if the solder's not adhering to the pad. You just kind of roll it off. So I'm going to tin up the rest of these off camera and we'll be right back. All right, so got everything tinned up the way we need it. The things you want to think about. What type of protocol you're using. We're using S-Bus in my case because we're using Tyrannus. And we need 5 volts for our receiver. I need 5 volts for my VTX. And I can use any voltage for my camera. So those are the 3 voltages that we're going to need. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to wire our harness in. Now, if you look at this, our harness will plug into the ESC, but it will not plug into the FC. How this flight controller is laid out is you've got motor 1, motor 2, motor 3, motor 4 signals. So, I don't know if you guys saw that. Sorry, I'm not in the shot very well tonight. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we're going to have primary battery voltage coming into these 2 ports, okay? That way, the flight controller can detect what our battery voltage is and put it through our OSD. So that's what we need to determine now. So what we're going to do is always make sure you have enough wire. So we're just going to cut this one long. Bam, okay? Usually ESCs, I have not looked at this one yet. Usually this will be a battery voltage. This one will be a current. This is a guess. I'll verify this. This will be ground. And 1, 2, we have 5. So, yeah, I'm not sure how that's working. Current, voltage. We might have a 5 volts in there too. So this might actually be battery voltage, 5 volts, ground, current sensor, motor 1, motor 2, motor 3, motor 4. So I'm going to have to research that. As soon as I do, we'll wire this up and I'll be right back. Bye. All right, we're back. So I was wrong. I forgot this is BL-Heli 32. So we got voltage. That's battery voltage. Then we've got telemetry for the ESCs, which we'll wire into whatever port we want. And then we've got a ground. Then we've got an NC, which means no contact, so we're not going to use that. And then 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to tin all of these up, except that no contact. I'm going to make them reasonably even, which they already are, but we'll give them a haircut anyway. Cool. And then we will strip them. There we go. Okay, perfect. And I'm going to go ahead and tin these up. So, like I've said in many of the videos before, when I tin wires, get that out of the way. I don't know if you guys can still see that. Got shitty wire lighting in here. I always tin from the back side of the wire out. So, make sure your wires are spread. You don't want shit sticking together, obviously. I put the soldering iron behind the wire and I tin them that way. Not rocket science. You don't have to have a shit ton on there. Okay. Clean off your iron when it gets shitty. People think I cuss too much. I don't think I cuss too much. All right, cool. So, now back to our ESC. I'm sorry, our flight controller. If we look at our little wiring diagram, you got battery voltage and battery negative right here. So, the positive and negative to this dude. Battery positive is one side up. We're gonna go here. Hopefully you guys can see this. And our ground is going to go here. Nothing but a peanut. Okay. So, and then our telemetry, we're going to hold off on for right now. And then motor 1, motor 2, motor 3, motor 4. Okay, so we're going to do that. I'm not even going to pay attention because I just remap mine anyway, but respectively, that's how you want to do it. So bam, I'm going to solder those right up, and we'll be right back. All right, easy enough. So I soldered everything up. We're going to take care of this NC. We'll just leave it there. I did take that telemetry wire, and I wired it into receive 1, which is going to be UART1. We will set that up in ButterFlight to the right UART for ESC telemetry. I don't usually use it because I don't really care, but I'm doing this video. So, and we're going to leave the NC or no contact loose. One of the things I want you guys to think about when you're doing soldering and you want your builds to look good, aim the wires in the direction you're going. See, I know I'm plugging this plug in right here, all right? So I have all my wires going this way. So I laid them this way and soldered them, okay? I did not lay them this way because if I laid them this way, I'd have to bend them over. Does that make sense? Then what I'll do is I'll do a twist just to keep things nice and neat. We're not even gonna hook that up yet because I got other soldering to do. We'll do that later, okay? No big deal. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're going to go ahead and wire in our camera. So our camera is going to go into ground, VCam, and signal. So how this is laid out, this is kind of jinglishy. You've got the ground to your video, your camera voltage, and your camera signal, okay? With OSD, your camera signal comes into the flight controller. The flight controller overlays your OSD, and then it spits it out, this one right here, into your video transmitter, which goes to your goggles, okay? So we're going to go ahead and grab our overly expensive camera that I probably shouldn't have bought, but, you know, fuck it. And all I want... you know what, guys? Put the shit in a Ziploc bag, you know what I'm saying? All right. So here's what we're going to do. Give me the cables. It comes with a little bracket doohickey, which is nice. I save those, believe it or not, because you never know. I never use them. Our little remote control, screws, all that crap. There's our remote. So we're going to take our harness, and I like these harnesses because they give you a ton of extra wire, and I use that extra wire for my receiver. You'll see that in a minute. So what we're going to do is we're going to strip this down. Think about it. Our camera is going to be right about here, right? And we know our voltage, OSD, and ground are right here. So you don't have much room or much space. So I'm going to cut the wires appropriately. So I'm going to cut them 2 inches. And I'm going to keep that. This little pigtail is for our OSD remote if we want to change the remote settings on the camera. So again, now you've got positive, ground, video signal is right here. And this is camera OSD, which I am not going to be using on this build. Bam, goodbye. So if you don't have OSD, like for instance, if you're using a micro, you're building a micro and you don't have OSD on your board, say you're using a PicoBlocks, you can take that wire I just snipped off, run it right to your battery voltage input, and it will meter and put an OSD overlay on the camera and tell you your voltage, which is really, really, really nice. In this case, we do not have to worry about it. So I'm going to go ahead and strip these. These are the only 3 that we need. And the camera voltage goes to, what are these things? They're like 5 to 40 volts or some crazy shit. I don't know. Good enough. Y'all can look it up. I don't want to tell you the wrong information, but I only run 4S, and I know for a fact you can run it off of 4S, so that's all I care about. I build birds that are 5 and 6S, but I don't run 5 and 6S. Okay, big old glob of crap right there. Don't need that. Remember, tinning is tinning. We don't need to get anal about it. So what we're going to do now, look at your diagram. Grounds to the left, cam, and signal, or voltage, okay? So ground is going to be there, then voltage, then signal, okay? So, and again, solder in the direction the wires are going to be laying. Does that make sense? and then heat through the wire to the pad. Once it liquefies, you know you're good. Bam, perfect. Then what we do is we twist up that wire. Usually I'll put a finger over the solder joints, make sure they don't break off. Just like that. Bam. All right. So then we're going to do the back side as well. And believe it or not, we're almost done with this build. It's not frickin' rocket science. I think it's safe. We can plug this in now. Our pins are facing down. So might do this off camera because this might take a little bit of a trick. Maybe not. My average build time when I'm not doing a video, about an hour. Hour and a half, sometimes, depends on the bird. All right, good enough. So we're gonna do the VTX now. So same principle applies. In the backside, we've got ground, voltage, but that's VCC. I do not wanna do that with my particular VTX. It will blow up and smoke, so I cannot use that. Video out, okay? So I'm gonna take this. We're gonna do a JJ mod to this in a little bit here. Take the camera up there, antenna. I'm gonna cut with the VTX 02s and 3s. You've got 5 volts out here, and this one is your signal, this one's your ground, this one's your hot, 5 volts coming in. I'm gonna cut those off. And let's see, my VTX is actually gonna go up in the hood. Actually, it's gonna go against the camera. So I do wanna leave reasonably long wires, and I'm gonna strip those like that, using the old trusty thumbnail. Look what I did to my thumbnail. That's why I'm not using my thumbnail. I broke it. Yeah, fucking stupid. Probably flipping off Bardwell or something, doing something stupid. All right. You know, I gotta say, I'm gonna go ahead and tin this up and tell you guys a little story. I actually watched a video of his all the way through the other day. And the reason I did it was I don't subscribe to his channel, but every once in a while his stuff pops up because we're all in the same market. And he did a review on the new Fat Sharks, and I have to admit that I actually agreed with him. I really did. I was just like, yeah, dude, I agree. I think Fat Sharks are overrated and underdeveloped, but that's just me. They're a good product, but they're not $500 good. So we're gonna put our ground over there. I probably just pissed off like 1,000 people by saying that. Fuck them. All right, and then our signal is going to go here. That's a really bad spot. Okay. And then we got to take this to 5 volts. So I'm going to take that 5 volts to right here, if I remember right. The reason I twisted the quad is I wanted the wires going in the right direction. Okay. So let's find our nearest 5 volt source, which is going to be right here. And I'm going to take my VTX and put it right there. Perfect. Okay, VTX is in. So what's that leave us? Our camera's wired up. Our VTX is wired up. We're going to give that a twist. I know I'm not in shot. I'm twisting a wire. Not a big deal. Okay. All right, so the only thing left to do, as far as solder, wire, well, that crap, is put in a receiver. Bam! So we're going to put in a Tyrannus, whatchamacallit, XM Plus. Easy enough. With the XM Plus, the square pad's your signal, center pad's your voltage, 5 volts. Well, 5 volts to 16 or something. So signal, voltage, and ground. So that's easy enough. We'll go ahead and tin that up. Nothing but a peanut. All right. Oops. All right. Then we're going to take this extra wire we had. Now, I've built a Proton before, so I kind of know where this stuff's going. So I'm kind of cheating a little bit. But we're going to take some of this wire, 3 strands here. We're going to cut this off. Give us some room. Get rid of this. I cannot overspeak how useful helping hands are in this hobby. You've got to have it. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and tin these up and then solder them to this off camera. Bam! Be right back. Oh, all right. Back. So we soldered this up. Nothing but a peanut. Nice and easy. Okay. There's that. So now the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to trim this down a little bit. Okay. The other thing I do with these, and I've said this in a video before, double-sided tape does not stick well to Tyrannus XM Pluses. I don't know why. They got some kind of oil or some shit on there. So what I do is I take Captain tape. You can use electrical tape, but I like Captain tape because it lets you see the LEDs beeping, or blinking, sorry. And I put that around it, and that way when I put my double-sided tape on there, bam, I'm good. So, where's this going to go? I'm trying to remember. Yeah, So I think we're going to third one down right there, which is, yes. So if you count down to here, our 1, 2 is S-bus. So it's actually the second pad is S-bus, okay? So we're going to go ahead and wire our signal into S-bus, and then we're going to tap into 5 volts, either over here or right here. So I'm probably going to go right off the top. This is 5 volts and ground right here, so I'll probably tag into there and S-bus into there. So I'm going to do that real quick off camera, and I'll show you when I'm done. Bye. All right, we're back. So here's what we did. We took our S-bus into the second pad down, like I said, and that is actually going to be UART number 3, and then negative and 5 volts right there. We're going to twist that guy up, and that is that. Beautiful. Okay, believe it or not, kids, almost done. Now, the problem I'm going to face is I don't think I've got any XT60 connectors. Oh, shit the bed. I forgot to order those. So let me go dig one of those up, and I'm going to prepare an XT60. I'm going to solder leads onto the back. I'll do that on camera too if I can find one. So, bam, I'll be right back. All right, miraculously, I found one. So what we're going to do is we're going to tin these wires. All right, so 14 gauge wire, and I'm going to strip a bit off of here. I'm not using my nail for this just because it's a little bit thicker, and we don't need to mess with that. Okay, so now what we're going to do, put these in our little helping hands, zoom in. Someday I'm going to buy a decent camera for my videos. My buddy who makes my video intros and all that stuff, I'm going to have a drink here. Bam, Roto Twister. I probably annoy the hell out of him. Because he's a graphic arts geek and brilliant artistic guy. And I'm a bonehead, you know, I don't take too much pride in my videoing. But I use my cell phone. So it's like, fuck it. All right. Now what you want to do is let your soldering iron sit on there. Apply the solder to the wire. Let it sit. This is heavy gauge stuff. Okay? Good enough. Woo! That's hot. Now, what do I do with my plug? So here's my plug. This one is a used plug, but it's what I had, so leave me alone. So we're going to re-tin them though, just a little bit. Round side's negative, flat side's positive, kids. Don't fuck that up. Bad things will happen. All right, so we're going to re-tin these just because this looks really ugly. Grab myself some solder, and we're going to tin the plug. I actually did a video on this, I think. All right, so we're going to take negative side. What we're going to do is we're going to touch the back of the wire and the terminal at the same time. And that, my friends, is going to help that absorb and slide right in. Bam. Like that. It does get a little warm. I'm going to warn you. All right. I don't like how this one tinned up. don't do this at home. I'm going to re-tin this wire real quick. All right. Same principles apply. Okay. Beautiful. Rock and roll. All right, so now what we're going to do, we're going to put them on the bird. Fuck me, that's hot. I am going to heat shrink this momentarily, but same rule applies. I'm going to go ahead and tin these off screen. You guys don't need to see this, but I'm going to make my tin area a little bit shorter. I'm going to go ahead and tin these wires up, and then we're going to stick them on our ESC. So bam, be right back. All right, we're back. So one of the things I just did is I removed the rear standoffs to give us a little bit of room. So you can see, maybe you can't, okay, negative side, positive side, right? So what we're gonna do, we're gonna do our negative side first because we don't wanna have to cross over. One of the things that I do with these, so I don't get the pad extremely hot, what I'll do is I'll lay the soldering iron across the pad, and then I will apply to the back of the wire. Watch. Nothing but a peanut. Whew! Damn, it's hot. All right. So, there you go. Look good? All right, cool. So realistically, we are done. As far as wiring goes, let me think before I speak. Yeah, we're done. A couple more tricks we got to do, but we're going to do a prostate check now. You've seen me do this 1,000 times if you've watched my stuff. Man, what a fucking mess. You watch all these other guys do their videos, it's like their workbench stays all nice and neat. They must clean shit before they do it. So we're going to put our meter on continuity test. Beep. Okay. And we're going to, hear that? And we're going to check our XT60. Perfect. Perfect. Okay. You should hear one beep. If you hear a consistent beep, you've got a short. So here's what we're going to do. Make sure nothing is touching that's important. Our camera is not connected. We do not need it. We're going to plug in a 3S. So negative to negative, positive to positive. Yeah, we should be good. Beautiful. Okay. No smoke. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to conformal coat this, this, and this. All right, so conformal coat, wonk, is here. I'm going to be doing when we do the GPS drone build, I'm going to be talking about conformal coating a lot because I'm going to show you guys how to waterproof a quad. All right, this is not waterproofing. This is just preventative maintenance if you end up in long grass and things like that. Okay, I'm not going to do the flight control or anything like that. I'm just doing the bare essentials. Okay, so that's that. Now the next thing that we're going to do, I'm not going to run this bird on this cheap ass antenna. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to put on a pigtail. Okay, here's a trick that I do with these. I buy these off of Banggood. It's one of the two things I buy. I take a piece of heat shrink, I cut it into a little band like this. Doesn't have to be pretty. I pull off this, let's see, zoom in here. I pull off the antenna, throw it away. And then, what did I just do with that fucking thing? Oh, you know what's pissed me off? There it is. I was going to say, you guys see it and I don't. I slide the heat shrink over the antenna, then connect the antenna to the VTX. There. And then slide this down. This keeps it from popping off. This is exceptionally, hang on. exceptionally important to do, because if that antenna pops off, bad things are going to happen. Okay. Bam. All right. So I want to test to make sure everything's working. So we're going to take our camera and we're going to plug it in. Whew, it's getting late. Okay. Camera's on. Make sure you plug in an antenna to your VTX or it will fry. Okay. Now we're going to plug in a battery. Make sure receiver is blinking, which it is, so that's working. Notice my motors are spinning. That's funny. That's all right. Nothing's set up yet, so I'm not worried about that. We're on 200 amps, and we're on channel A8. So I'm going to plug in, turn on my little cheap-ass doohickey thing here. Make sure this works. Aha. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Nice. All right, so everything works. We are rock and fucking roll. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take off the camera. I think we're done soldering, so turn that off. Get rid of this. We're going to take off the camera. We're going to screw it into the canopy. The other thing that I have to do is I have to drill a hole in this canopy for this VTX, this SMA plug, because this canopy does not have one. So we have to drill a hole right there. I use a Dremel tool for that. And where is it? What a fucking mess. I use one of those bits. I just burn through it and wing it. No big deal. And then what I actually do to mount everything is I take my VTX and I take double-sided tape, this stuff, and I cut it to here. Can you tell I've done this before? And I do this. And it's a little bit long. We're going to cut it off. Okay. Then I peel half of it back. Sorry, not shot. Sorry I'm not being more funny. I think I haven't drank enough. It's been a long day. I worked on some other birds before this video, did another rant video before this video, and plus I worked today. So it's like, oh, this is painful. You guys are like, fucking turn the channel. All right, there we go. I take this. I stick it to the back of this. Then, believe it or not, I stick it to the back of the camera. All right, and I'm going to show you that when I'm done. But I'm going to drill a hole through here. I'm going to attach the camera. It just goes through the holes. I'm pretty sure you guys can figure that out. It's not rocket science. And I'm going to go ahead and pitch this thing together and then show you the final product. So bam, be right back. All right, and we're back. Let's clear up the mess. I threw these props on just because they were right there. So what we did, I put the antenna on, put the canopy on, obviously. I took double-sided tape and stuck the receiver up to the top of the canopy. Fits perfect. And I took the VTX, that double-sided tape, and stuck it to the back of the camera, and it fits really, really, really well. Like it was made to be that way. So, I don't know if you can see that in there, but that's where that is. That extra piece of, you know, two pieces of tape. So, man, fucking tired. Hey, about time you're done. Overtime limit. That double pieces of tape keep the VTX from heating into the camera. Adds like an insulation. The next thing we need to do, and just about the last thing we need to do, is we're going to put a piece of heat shrink over that XT60. So we're just going to use this. Cut it down to there. No big thing. Stick it over the top. Now it's heat shrink, so what you want to do, bring it to about level, take our little heat gun, Takes a second for it to get going. Once it does, works really, really well. I do this for protection, obviously, and a little bit of looks. No big deal. Got a little bit too short, but this is the heat shrink that I use that has the glue in it. Watch. I can actually pull it up. Shit's awesome. I love it. I love this heat shrink. Okay, bam. Now, the only thing left to do is to mount our antennas. Now, a lot of people will, especially with race frames, they'll take zip strips and stick them on the frames and have them go out like this, and then they'll heat shrink their antennas to them. I like antenna tube standoffs. Let me find an example. Here. Mocha Griff Light. See this 3D print here? Okay, and it holds the antenna tube. That's what I like. I do not like, I just don't like the look of those frickin' zip strips coming through there. I think it looks gay. So I don't have any right now. I'm out. I have a bunch on order, and my buddy Mike in the club is actually making me some. And I did make the far view for this. So yeah, there you go. So we should be able to plug this in. Always double check after you put everything together. Make sure she doesn't smoke. Beautiful. All right, kids, there is your Proton build. Pretty sharp. I really like this. I had another one of these called the Dreamsicle that I just sent to, I'm sending to Hawaii tomorrow morning. So either way, there you go. All the parts to this and some of the tools like the tapes and stuff like that are in the parts description. I'll do a flight test of this guy here pretty soon. As soon as I get the antennas mounted. And yeah, bam. Hope this helps you guys out. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bam, JJ! Hope you like fishing. Bam, JJ! Hey, JJ! Hope you like fishing.